All right, as you can see here, we have the 10 for 1,000 watch list here, the trade history. So what I want to do is go through each one of these setups because there's a rhyme and reason why I get in them, why I trade them, and I think it's important always to review your trades as as much as possible, and that's what we're going to do right now. So we're going to start off here, AMT, American Tower, and I'm going to break these down as I do usually on the watch list. And this was just what I call a rock hard stock. And these are stocks that are, they're in the tech zone most of the time, and they've been very bullish, and they continue to show really great relative strength and all kinds of strength versus their moving averages. Like, so just anytime you see a stock like this, it's really good just to concentrate on the pullbacks. Pulling back to the 20 and 50 period moving averages are usually great areas to buy these. So this one basically going out to this trade, I did see the pullback to the 20, so the alert went out for a follow through, and it got that follow through and triggered really nice. So I usually put out a video. It's called the Rock Hard Stocks, and these are the very strong stocks going into the week, and these are great stocks to put on your focus list in case there's a pullback, because they work really well. You'll probably see a couple of them this week. Actually, I do have a few of them on the list this week. So let's start off here. The next one on the list here was Cephalon, CEPH here, and again, a very this stock, it was in a basing pattern. It wasn't my favorite setup, but the stochastics were shown in embedded stochastics here, and we're kind of consolidating here. We go out in 5 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and starting to break out here. We pulled back a little. We stayed in the zone. Now we're pushing a little bit higher. It still hasn't really performed. It didn't trigger yet. CEPH. It didn't. Actually, it did trigger at 63. It's trading at 63.87 now. Target 65. So we're just waiting for that target to come along. Cephalon, and let's see BlackRock. I forgot the BlackRock, which was on the 10 for 1,000 watch list, and that was a nice trigger. Again, this was also a nice strong stock. That the criteria I like to look for is a stock that hasn't touched the 200 period moving average after a long base. So as you start to squeeze up towards that 200 period moving average kind of tends to suck you up into it, and it always becomes a great level of like a target. So into this flag, I noticed that the 200 is above us, so we took that that setup into that 200 period moving average. No, we're going to get flushed up to, and exactly what happened. Almost hit it, pulled back. It's still in play, but it hit the trigger, and it was a good trade for those out there who took that. DGX here, great setup. This is exactly, this is actually, if you're not familiar with the 10 for the, you see the video, this is similar to what you see on the video. We break down the trade exactly. In this case, this is a great example of, stock divergence, and this is my key indicator when I use it on the site and finding these stocks on the watch list. I use a combination of stochastics and 4 other indicators: the moving averages, the trend lines, stock patterns, support and resistance lines, and in some cases we look for specialized candlesticks. So you add those all together, you get a great formula, and that formula tells you when to get in on a pullback, so you have the best risk reward type of trade and the best bang for the buck. And there's nothing I could say that would ever change me the way I trade these stocks. So hopefully you can see the benefit here. In this case, DGX here, just going back in the history of the stock, and you can see each time the stochastics pull back, you get a pullback in the market, and then you get that nice bounce. Now, once you start to establish a pattern that you're, and again, this might be a little advanced for newer people because, I've traded these patterns for years and recognize different little key areas where they are going to turn around and stuff. But most of the time, you want to buy on a pullback. You want to buy, a stock on a pullback and get that bounce, and you want to, sell into strength or short into strength and get that pullback. So the buy trigger here, so when I do that timing issue here, I'm looking at the stochastics being pulled, the momentum to be on the sell side or getting down to that level. I'm about to turn over to the buy side, but I also want to find areas of other support and, the pullback from the trend line and overall in what I call the slanted inverted head and shoulders pattern, knowing that I'm going to break out here. So on this trade, the best place to be would be down in this level and get that move. So we took this trade twice in the last couple of weeks, and again, the first time was out of this breakout. And then we consolidated and was on the 10 for 1,000 watch list last week because, it was still knew that this was a really valid breakout of a trend line, and we're consolidating, not pulling back with the market. So we expected that pop, and that next day we got that pop. So that triggered right away and hit its target right away. So another great trade. the Ingersoll Rand. Now this is another good, another nice setup here. IR, it triggered at 35, and the target's 37. And when we triggered here, actually I took this trade off. Even though that target's higher, we got in here around that 35 trigger, and I said watch the downward trend line because you have to pay attention to the indicators. IR has a beautiful wedge pattern, and we took that right into it. I said watch for consolidation back to the 20-period moving average. And we should hold this midpoint of this wedge pattern at some point in this area. Excuse me. Some point in this area here, we're going to get this breakout. It doesn't know if we're going to pull back a little bit further, or we're going to wait a couple days going into next week, wait for the stochastics to set up. But eventually, we're going to get this break up to the upside on IR, almost guaranteed. So this is actually a trade that we took off into the trend line. It pulled back. It still is a very valid trade and probably going to be on the watch list for this week. IR. ITT, Internet ITT Corp, just an inverted head and shoulders pattern, nothing much other than that. Triggered, starting to move out of this. Didn't hit its target yet, but not the just a standard thing. There's I think a lot of better setups out there. That was ITT. KMGB here is another chemical company. Didn't even really move. Two stocks I really wanted to discuss here. Let's take a look here. MLM, Martin Marietta. Now I sent these out. These were from last week, and they're such a good setup. I'm going to bring them. I want to send them out to the public here. This is such a good high probability setup. And again, instead of looking at a stock and looking back and saying, see where the stochastics were here, see where they're here, see the move here. I'm telling you, this is where the stochastics want to be, and we're here before the move. So this is, this is quality here. So, we got a nice move. I started taking the position here last week. Now you can see the nice move here yesterday on Friday, and everything. We get a confirmation cross on the stochastics, which is what I call a confirmation move, where I want to add to my position. Because remember, I'm already in at a good risk reward down here. I've taken the stochastics down. I'm starting to get in here because I'm seeing the divergence. Each time the stochastics pull back, we're making a lower low. Until this case, we're pulled back and we're off the recent low. So that puts in that right shoulder, and we're ready to move up here. So MLM looking ready to rock and roll on this, and we'll continue to add to this next week, and we'll be in high focus on the site while I broadcast. The other one is VMC, Vulcan Materials. Similar setup here, again off the 10 for 1,000 watch list, and I actually put this one a couple weeks ago. I said watch that 3460 area, and it's still up under there in case we came down to that lower trend line again. But I'm starting to see the divergence. The stochastics pulled back again, similar situation. So we're going to watch this one on for this week also. Very good setup. VMC, what are we up to? NVIDIA, NVDA, and OC. All right, NVDA. I have so many good stocks here. NVDA. That's funny because that was on the watch list, triggered. This was really funny because love the setup, and there was two analysts that came out. And I don't remember the names, but they're too big. I don't know if it was UBS and someone else. Whatever. But one guy, we saw the nice basing pattern here. We got the move, we got everything set up here, and then all of a sudden, an analyst comes down and they reiterates their sell rating on this $8 price target. I'm like, what? What do these guys have a nerve? I said, but anyway, I was out of the trade anyway. I had a nice profit on it, out of the trade. But I was like, it kind of got in my head because you can't help but kind of pay attention to sometimes when an analyst comes out and you think, all right, these guys do this for a living. They do the research in the company. They get into the books. They talk to them. They take them out. They wine them, dine them. They try to get inside. And you kind of have to sometimes say, well, maybe they know something. Maybe they've done more research than I have. Never believe that. Analysts are, I'm not going to say because everyone has to get a job doing something. But you know what? Do your own research. The following day, we get an opposite upgrade to a buy from another with a $14, $15 price target on it. And it was like the market just took off. And I'm like, well, how could these two analysts be so opposite on the realm? Very high ranking, very high profile analyst. And How can they be so separate? Are they, they just throwing darts at the ball? I mean, it's just I ranted on this on the radio for a while. I'm starting to rant and waste this video, but that's, pisses me off sometimes. They get to people, they don't know better. Anyway, that's in the video. So in the video was a good trade out of that long base and pushing up against the 200 period moving average. That'll be, that'd be an area I'd be concerned about getting out if you still have profits on that NVDA. And now the last one here from last week's watch list, 10 for 1,000 watch list, was OC, Owens Corning. And again, this is going out, if you look at the notes when on the first part of the video when I talked about bringing down those notes, there's a note here talking about lower trend line. But basically, what really counts here, and this is a great example of this, when I talked about the notes, I said watch the double bounce on the stochastics. It's a very bullish indicator. We already had the oversold level, but I knew we were pulling back down a little. This one came out, little news pre-announced saying they're not going to get their high end of guidance. Sold off, but look where it closed. The closing candlesticks are so important in this market on a daily chart. All right, because you get a closing candlestick or a kind of a hammer type of thing, normally you'll see that retrace, that move up from that level. And I know a lot of people on the show actually grabbed that on that pullback because it was on the watch list, and it moved up off of that. I was very, I was concerned. I said, well, I want to wait a couple days. Early bird gets its worm. The pattern's played out perfectly. This is a high probability setup. Lower trend line support, especially with the closing candlestick. This is like a 5 out of 5. And again, stochastics oversold plus the added thing of a double bounce on the stochastics, which is I trade a few different stochastic patterns, believe it or not. And I trade the wedge pattern, the double bottom on that, even a low basing channel on the stochastics, and what I call a stochastic divergence, like an embedded stochastic. So there's a whole different series of stochastics you could, stochastic indicators you could use, and hopefully I'll get that to you. But in this case, you had the oversold stochastic, you had the lower trend line, you had a pattern recognition, which was a channel. And when I talk about pattern recognitions, you want to have different patterns, wedges, channels, flags, inverted head and shoulder patterns. Basically, just the top 4 to 5 patterns that you know which direction to trade off of. Downward wedges and downward channels, I pick up the lower trend line because I know the best results of a break out to the upside. And you got to know the formula, you got to know the percentage of how the pattern develops just to get out of that pattern. In this case, this was that pattern. Downward channel off the lower channel line, oversold stochastic with a double bounce. Recent support really not there, but what was there was that reversal candlestick, and now it's off to the races. So looks good. I mean, OC is going to hit its target. It might consolidate a little at the 50. Might even come down. It could give us a double bottom here around the 23. In either case, this is a great setup here, OC, and we'll continue to watch it going into next week. So that was the 10 for 1,000 watch list. Now I want to just continue to roll here because I got so many good stocks here, and I want to just do a little education for you. You know what? Maybe I'll just break this video down. I'll close this video out, and then I'll actually send out an educational video now, just because I'm super motivated. And hopefully, so anyway, hope you enjoyed that. That was just a review of the 10 for 1,000 watch list, and I want to try to get a kind of a good setup, like kind of a little seminar video out right now. But hopefully, if you want to get all this work done for you, just come to the site, DayTradingRadio.com. If you become a member, which is only $24.95 a month, I do, you get all the work done for you on the videos and stuff. Not that you shouldn't do it yourself, but the amount of time and effort is definitely worth the value. So hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you on the radio. This is DayTraderRockstar signing off.